Hey there fellow adult collectors, David Eon here, and I am showing you some stuff that came from local thrift stores. Do you still go thrift store hunting? Do you bother anymore? It used to be a big deal. Going to the thrift stores and doing the hunt that way used to be a really big deal. I used to do a lot of it in the 90s when I was still like a toy dealer, and I used to go to the conventions, and I used to work the Great Eastern conventions a lot. I would go to the thrift stores daily, every day, and I would score every day. I had like a circuit of thrift stores that I would go to one after the other, and I'd come home with bags and bags full of vintage toys and action figures, and those days are gone. It just doesn't really happen anymore, although you can still find some vintage stuff like I'm just going to show you here really quick. But it's not like it used to be. Too many pickers looking for a score, and too many thrift stores that think that anything that's old is worth a fortune, and they either cherry pick it out or they put some insane price on it that's just unrealistic. But you can still find some stuff every once in a while, even though it's like 10% of what it used to be. 10%. So you can still find a few things. Now this one right here is the original Milton Bradley Super Simon. And Super Simon came out in 1979, if I remember correctly. And I have tested this. This works. This does work. I don't have any batteries in it right now because I took them out after I was done. It takes 2 D-size batteries and 1 9-volt. That's how old it is. Here, no, this will show you how old it is right here. Made in the USA. When's the last time you saw a toy that said that? But this does work. It's something loose in there. It's like, I don't know if you hear that. Hear that? Something in there, but it did work. I tested it and it was fine. So I picked that up, and this was like $2. Play-Doh Birthday Fun. And the box is open, and this looks like the late 80s version because they made this, they started making this in like, I think 75, and they still make a Birthday Fun kit. It doesn't look like this. The box is really the difference. Here's the Play-Doh points. 2 Play-Doh points. Play-Doh Birthday Fun. Do they look like they're enjoying themselves? Those look like 80s kids, don't they? I'm pretty sure this is the 1980s edition. $7.99 at Sears, though. This is opened, obviously, but it is complete. What's it worth? Not a whole hell of a lot, honestly. I got it really cheap, but it's probably worth like $15 at the most. I know you've been looking at this. This actually came from like a yard sale. Hordak. No accessories, but the cape is intact. Fully attached. It's not all torn up. I thought that was really cool. He does have like a nick in his paint right there though, but I picked that up for like 50 cents at a yard sale. You don't find good stuff at yard sales anymore either. Everybody's an eBay expert now. And then Stinkor, which came from Value Village. It was in a bag full of garbage. A bunch of, you know how they like to bag up a ton of really just junk, just random toys, and they put a price on it. But I spotted this Stinkor in there, and I was like, oh yeah. He doesn't have a scent anymore. Or if it is, it's really faint. But come on, Stinkor. And he's still wearing his harness. No weapon, but he's in really good shape. And he has that classic I don't want to stand problem, because you know how that goes with these vintage Mattel Masters of the Universe figures, that their legs are always really wonky. That was cheap. The whole bag was like $1.49 or something like that. So I was like, yeah, I'll take Stinkor and you can have the rest. And I picked this up from a yard sale also. It was like $1.25. It's just a gorilla, but it's a Ja Rule gorilla. It says Ja Rule on his backside there. And Ja Rule was famous for making like really crappy like dollar store kind of toys back in the day. So this is old. This is probably from the 80s also. Not worth much, but you know, for $0.25, Why not? Get a gorilla. He can hang around with Hordak. Now this is the Barbie and Stacy double case, it says. And it's actually in really solid condition. These old vinyl Barbie cases are usually ripped up pretty badly. But this is intact. Except that Rita wrote her name in here. Whoever Rita was. But the pockets are intact. The rest of this case is intact. And it was completely full of 70s Barbie clothing. But I don't have it to show to you because someone already talked me out of it. I talked to someone who's a Barbie collector and they're like, oh, come on. And I did a trade with them, so it's already gone, sorry. But the whole thing was like $309 at a Value Village. And the only thing that's left in here is I think this is a Dawn dress is left behind. But it was full of like 70s Barbie clothing. The only problem I'm having is that because they taped it, and you know that Value Village and Goodwill love taping the crap out of everything. You can hear that? They taped it all the way around, so it's going to be hard to get that residue off without damaging the lithograph. And I know what you're going to say, use Goo Gone. Have you ever worked with Goo Gone? That stuff does not work. It really doesn't work very well. And I know you see that back there. The Themes from Hit TV Shows album with the worst rudimentary drawings that you can think of. Look at Sanford and Son. Look at Steve Austin, the $6 Million Man. Let me pull this out so you can get a better look at this ridiculous album that we just got for nostalgic purposes entirely, because that's just how we roll. It's all about the nostalgia, folks. Look at Michael Landon, Little House on the Prairie, The Waltons, Hawaii Five-0, Policewoman, One Day at a Time, Charlie's Angels. Come to think of it, only like 2 of these actually have lyrics, I think. Am I right? One Day at a Time and All in the Family had lyrics. I don't think the rest of them did. I don't think any of the rest of those had lyrics. They had voiceovers, like Charlie's Angels and $6 Million Man and Bionic Woman had a voiceover. The rest of them didn't. And this is part of a series from Peter Pan Records. This is second album, and the vinyl's actually pretty good. I looked at it. There's a part 1, hit TV shows here, Welcome Back, Kotter, Good Times, Chico and the Man. And I'll tell you, it says themes from the hit TV shows. This isn't going to sound right. It's not going to sound like the themes from the hit TV shows, and I'll tell you why. Do you remember, were you growing up in the 70s or the 80s, and do you remember the commercials where they would have like the big hits? It'd be like a double album with all the big hits. 50 of your favorite songs from the 1970s and 1980s. Like that, and it says all the original songs sung by the original artists. Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones. And then you would buy the album, and it didn't sound right at all. Or you'd be like, that's not Mick Jagger's voice. Who the hell is singing this? That's because the original songs sung by the original artists was what they would tell you in the commercial. The original artists was the name of the band. And right here, it says the Pop Singers and Orchestra, which is the name of the band that played these songs and sung any lyrics if there are any. So it's not going to sound at all like the actual TV show themes. It's going to sound different. It's going to be their rendition. But that's the big scam that they used to play with those record sales back in the day, when they would sell those original songs sung by the original artists, and you'd get the album and it didn't sound right at all. Now you know why if you never figured that out. Anyways, not trying to be discouraging, because it can be discouraging to know that if you go into a thrift store, odds are nowadays you're wasting your time. If anything good came in, it's been cherry picked. Everybody's an expert now. Everybody wants to go on eBay, and whatever the highest price that something's being sold for on eBay, that's the price they want. And thrift stores are no exception. They're famous for doing that now. But you can find some stuff. Granted, nothing here too spectacular, although I made out really good with the Barbie stuff. So I've more than made my money for what I paid for this with trading away the clothing. And as soon as I can get this cleaned up, I can do something with the case too. I'm pretty sure. So I got plenty out of that. It's nice to have the Simon, and definitely nice to have the Masters of the Universe figures. The album just would fit nice in the museum because it's just really nostalgic and really cheesy too. Cheesy can be fun. Maybe the birthday fun Play-Doh, I'll give it away in one of our contests. I'll have to think about it for a while. But as discouraging as it can be to know that when you go into a thrift store, you're probably not going to find anything, you still can. You still can. It's just not like the glory days of back in the 80s and 90s when you could make a living doing it. It's changed a lot. Like I said, there's a lot of pickers out there. Everybody's an expert. The thrift stores cherry pick it anyway. So it's few and far between when anything slips through the cracks. I'm really surprised out of all of this, really surprised that those slipped through the cracks and that the vintage Barbie and Stacy case wasn't recognized either, especially considering what was in it, because it was literally completely full of mostly 70s Barbie and Ken clothing and some 60s too. There was a few 60s pieces in there that I was just like, wow, I'm shocked that they didn't separate this or that they just didn't bother. Anyway, have you had any good fortune recently with thrift stores? Do you bother to go anymore? Or have you just like thrown your hands up and said, screw it, there's no way? Have you had any thrift store gold recently? Or at least, I guess this is more along the lines of iron pyrite, aka fool's gold. It's not like super gold or like some of the stuff I used to find in the 90s when I did the daily searches at the local thrift stores, and I'd come home with bags of stuff and I'd have Mark's Best of the West and 80s G.I. Joe and Star Wars and 60s Barbie dolls and just all kinds of stuff, anything you can think of. I've even found Blythe. I found Emerald the Witch. I found an Eloise doll once that was worth hundreds. But you don't find stuff like that anymore. But I still look. It's still fun to go and hunt every once in a while. Sometimes it surprises you. Had any good experiences lately? Tell me about it in the comment section down below. Please do give the video a thumbs up if you got anything out of it. Share it if you can. Subscribe if you're new. Check out some of our other content if you have not. We do a lot of different things that are adult collector and nostalgia and pop culture related. We're all up and down the gambit, so check us out. Join our Patreon. Consider joining our Patreon. Everything that we collect from Patreon goes right into our giveaways on this channel and on the Patreon for Patreon exclusive giveaways. So please do take a look at that. Find us on Instagram, Open by Chance on Instagram, and join our Facebook page. So what more can I say, folks, but thanks for watching, and we will see you again soon.